Welcome to the Back in Time podcast with Kyle and JD, where every week we jump into our DeLorean, cruise to 88 miles per hour, and travel back in time to review our favorite films. Every week we talk about current cinema, the latest trailers, and we pick a new favorite film every single episode.
But I need a nuclear reaction to generate the 1.21 gigawatts of electricity. 1.21 gigawatts!
Don't say that! Never say that! Goonies never say die!
We're the best, we're the beautiful, we're the only Ghostbusters.
Now, here's your host, Kyle Autry, and his co-host, JD. All right, welcome back to the Back in Time podcast. This is Kyle, as always, joined by my co-host, JD. JD, how you doing today?
You know, I'm doing pretty well. It's a typical day. The sun is in the sky and the moon is in the night. So I think that's the definition of day and night.
Yeah, that literally is. Awesome. Cool. Hey, man, looking forward to discussing some Happy Gilmore here. And we're in episode 25 already. So we're a quarter of a way to 100 episodes. What do you think about that?
I think that Rome wasn't built in a day. It took at least 2 days. And one day we will be at 100 episodes and we will be standing at the top of a mound of other podcasts that did not make it to 100. We will laugh.
You know, technically we do the teaser trailer. Do you think we should be counting those?
I don't know. What does the audience think? Does the audience take our teaser trailers as legit episodes, or do they take it as just teasers? Are we just flicking the pickle, or are they taking it as the whole ride?
That's awesome. Flicking the pickle.
No, I'm asking you. I'm asking the audience. Let's not laugh. Let's be adults about it.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. You're right. We gotta take this seriously. That's awesome. So let's discuss a little bit, some intro to Happy Gilmore here. We'll jump into that in a few seconds. But have you gone to the theater lately, JD? We see any new movies?
Has there been any good movies out?
Well, I went yesterday and I posted a photo up on our Twitter, and I saw the movie I, Tonya, which is about the Tonya Harding story. So if you remember her at all,
I remember Tonya Harding. Did you like I, Tonya?
I Tonya was fantastic.
I, Tonya, she, Tonya, you, Tonya.
I think, honestly, though, Margot Robbie, who plays Tonya Harding in this, will probably get an Oscar nod. It's a really good movie.
All right, fine then. I will take your challenge, and I will consider thinking about maybe watching it.
Allison Janney plays her mother, and she does an awesome job. So, hey, JD, do you have any interest in seeing that new Christian Bale movie called The Hostiles?
No, because honestly, I'm not a Christian Bale fan, and okay. Shout out to Christian Bale. If you want to come exchange punches, I'm happy to engage you. Well,
I'm sure you could probably hold the sound at some point on one of his sets, and he could berate you in front of everybody.
Yeah, I'll probably make more money doing that than I currently do.
So, JD, we're a couple weeks out from the premiere of Black Panther. I know you're a big fan of these movies, so give me some thoughts on the newest Marvel movie coming out. What are you thinking?
I'm a little on the fence because I think that Marvel is sort of they're creeping on the thicker grass of their properties, and the trailer looks good. The trailer looks solid. The actors are very good. The freaking music, they're doing that. You know, they're pulling a Guardians of the Galaxy again with making the trailers and making a full-on experience from the movie. And I gotta say, I'm more interested in seeing this, and I will compare it to Doctor Strange, which I was equally unimpressed with seeing. But I think that Black Panther is going to be a good movie, and I think it's going to be worth seeing. And I'm hoping that it's going to do a great job of setting up the newest Avengers movie, which is only a few months on the heels.
Yeah, and one thing I'm excited about too, I don't know if you hadn't put these two together, but Ryan Coogler's the director here, and one of the stars here playing Eric Killmonger is Michael B. Jordan, who he last directed in Creed, and then also Fruitville Station as well, which was a award-winning movie, I believe. But those two do really good work together. I thought Creed was awesome.
Yeah, we've discussed Creed before, and obviously Michael B. Jordan's done a great job in every film I've ever seen him in. He's a great actor, so I am happy to see and know that he is in Black Panther, and knowing the tie-in between directors and all of their projects together. I agree with you. I think that's a great point.
You know what we do need to talk about, because you'd mentioned this a couple weeks back, that the newest trailer was out for The Strangers. And I watched it, but we never discussed it.
Let's do it. Let's get dirty.
So, just to give a little insight, JD, why don't you kind of set this up a little bit on the original Strangers and how this one kind of came to be. So the original's 2008, just for your notes.
Right. So the original Strangers, and for those of you that don't know, this is my ultimate, all-time, most perfect, awesomest, favorite horror movie. Like, The Strangers scared the bejeebus out of me, and every time I watch it, I'm just in awe of like how freaking amazing it is. From Liv Tyler's performance, Scott Speedman, the guy from It's Always Sunny, isn't it? Dennis.
Oh yeah.
It's the original is so good, and it's based on a true instance, which is a unique way of going at a movie. The original writer and director happened to hear somebody knocking on his door late at night, and he turned that experience into what I think is just the ultimate scarefest. And so the sequel has been a long time gestating, and it's finally here. Original writer and director Brian Bertino is not involved in it outside of his original characters being used. And, we get this trailer. We have Christina Hendricks in it. I don't know who else. Do you know the other names of the other actors?
Yeah, I do. Bailey Madison is playing Kinsey.
Ooh, Bailey Madison is great in The Haunting Hour, by the way. The second time we're dropping R.L. Stine.
And then we've got Martin Henderson, who's going to play Mike, which I believe is Christina Hendricks' husband in this one. So he's been in Smoking Aces, Flyboys, Everest, and was Noah in The Ring, if you can remember all the way back to that one.
I do. I enjoyed Smoking Aces. I never saw Flyboys, but I do remember him in The Ring.
And then we've got a new doll face. So obviously the one from 10 years ago has aged a little bit. So they went with a little younger casting here, and it's going to be Emma Bellamy. She doesn't have a lot on her resume. So this is actually only going to be her third movie.
Yeah, but the original masked characters, they really didn't have much either, and they never leave the masks.
What do you remember about the original story that this is based off of?
From what I've read, it's based off of hearing a knock one day at the door, late at night, and somebody asking I forget the name of the original movie, they say, is so-and-so there? He says, no, you've got the wrong house. And then the story spiraled from what if, right? That's creepy as fuck.
Yeah, that's really scary.
I think that all the time. I'm laying in the dark all the time, and I hear all sorts of noises, and I'm like, there's somebody in the closet, there's somebody under the sink, there's somebody under the bed, there's somebody at the door. Like, I'm always expecting to get murdered.
There it is. I found it. So, yeah, the line that she says is Tamra there?
Tamra.
No, I think you got the wrong house. You sure? So creepy.
And it all ties into the end to, like, why are you doing this? Because you were home. Have you ever watched The Strangers alone?
Yes.
It is so creepy to watch alone.
Yeah, actually, I bought it earlier this year on DVD and then came back and watched it alone in the house, and I cranked up the volume on my surround sound, and I just sat there like hair standing up on my arm still. And I know exactly what's going to happen.
The other movie that I watched alone that scared the bejeebus out of me, coincidentally enough, is Ring. The Ring.
Ooh.
I watched that. I watched that when I was working at the movie theater, and I saw it in theaters alone. And that scared, I was like so frightened. Like, that was an experience to have.
Let's discuss the trailer a little bit. So we got our first glimpse into what this new movie is going to be about. And, what was your first impression after watching the trailer here?
I had pros and cons to this trailer. One, it reminded me so much of the original that it made me so effing excited. Like I was like,
Yeah.
yes, 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 yes. But at the same time, it made me a little apprehensive because I was like, okay, we're repeating, nothing's original. We're just coming up with, a different background for the same jump scares. So I loved it, and I'm gonna see it, whether it comes right out to theaters, right to VOD, or if I can go to the local Blockbuster and pick it up. I will see it as soon as it's available. There's no question. But I was a little disappointed that it was a little too similar to the original, in my opinion.
Okay. I thought the beginning part did seem very similar, but I thought the ending of the trailer showed that they're going to get outside of the trailer that they're in, which in the original is actually a house. But it looked like they were like at a motel. And
it's a trailer park that they're in.
Okay.
Oh, right. Yeah.
They've got like a pool area. So it did seem like a different setup, but I mean, I understand where you're coming from.
No, and I agree with what you're saying too, because for them to take that such a contained horror movie and to open it and broaden it up takes some writing chops. Like that takes some skill to say like, somebody is trapping you into your house. How can you not just get out into the open and escape? So I agree. I'm very excited to see what they do with that concept to open it up. Because I think, and my comparison would be like how they do with The Purge. They do a great job of taking a contained concept and opening it up into the world to making it into, what could only be called an uncontained thriller, which doesn't often happen.
And I'm looking forward to seeing Christina Hendricks in this. I don't think she's ever done a horror movie, has she?
She was in Drive.
Okay.
Well, it's not a horror movie, but it was pretty thrilling, the parts that she was in. But yeah, for her, this is her step into being a leading lady. And I think she's got the chops to do it. She's got the looks to do it. And, I think we can all agree that I'm willing to see what she's able to do.
Definitely. No, she was awesome in Mad Men, and I thought she was really good in Drive as well. She had a smaller part, but I mean, this is definitely going to be, like you said, her first crack at it to see if people show up to watch her films. But yeah, I would say we're both very excited and looking forward to seeing this. So it does say that it's going to be released on March. Hold on one second. It does say it's going to be released in theaters on March 9th. So
hey, one day before my birthday. Yeah, finally, after all these years, you'll finally give me one birthday gift.
It's just a paper bag and it says light on fire.
Sans dog shit.
Don't put it out with your boots, Ted.
Don't tell me my business, devil woman.
I think that's it as far as like trailers and stuff that I wanted to discuss today. Kind of a slow news day for us. Usually we've got a little bit more to talk about, but I'm sure there'll be more next episode. Why don't we do some intro to Happy Gilmore here? Head first into this thing here. So Happy Gilmore is a 1996 American sports comedy film directed by Dennis Dugan with music by Mark Mothersbaugh.
Whoa. Pronounce his name right, because he's a massive entity in the music world. He's done. I really don't. He used to be in Devo. He's done all of Wes Anderson's movies. How
do you say his last name?
Mothersbaugh? I don't know. I don't know either. I've never heard anyone say his name before.
Mark Mothersbaugh.
Say Mark Mothersbaugh.
Berg? There's no R though.
Baugh.
Mother's Bay? I don't know. I can't say his name. He's not getting included.
Say Mark Mothersbaugh and then just.
Music by Mark Mothersbaugh and produced by Mark. I can't pronounce his name. And produced by Mark Simons. It stars Adam Sandler as the title character, an unsuccessful ice hockey player who discovers a newfound talent for golf. The screenplay was written by Sandler and Tim Hurley. Do you remember any other movies that Sandler wrote? That surprises me. I didn't know he was a writer.
I feel like he wrote 8 Crazy Nights.
Did he?
I feel like he did. I mean, it's based on the song that he wrote, so I feel like he wrote the movie.
That is a good point. He did write a song that had that. The film was released in cinema March 16th, 1996 by Universal Pictures. Happy Gilmore was a commercial success, $41.2 million on a $12 million budget. And the film was the first of multiple collaborations between Sandler and Dugan, who still work together, very often these days. The film won an MTV Award for Best Fight between Adam Sandler versus Bob Barker. That's an interesting combo there, but if you've watched the movie before, you'll know it is an awesome fight scene. One of the things that I found that was kind of interesting is there is actually like a real life version of Happy Gilmore, and it's a guy named Jamie Sadlowski. He's also a former hockey player, and he can hit golf balls over 400 yards. And just recently, in recent years, he's won a long drive competition, and he is a professional golfer. Did you know there was a real life Adam Sandler, and have you watched his videos on YouTube?
The answer is definitely no and no, but I do challenge him to give me a call. I feel like I can outdrive the amazing long driving guy.
The amazing golf ball whacker guy.
There it is. You got it.
So the film was nominated for a couple awards, and it won one. So it was nominated Kids' Choice Awards for Best Movie, MTV Award for Best Comedic Performance, Adam Sandler, the MTV Best Fight Scene, which they did win, Sandler and Bob Barker. And they were also nominated for a Sound Effects Award. And their sound effect guy, his last name was Foley Artist. They spent over 40 hours designing, improving, and perfecting the sound of Adam Sandler's golf swing.
Oh, I spend at least 40 hours at work a week.
How does that pertain to special effects?
They spent 40 hours? Come on, I do that in 1 week.
That's true. That is kind of weak that they spent 1 week and they made it sound like they spent 10 years. It's like, I bet James Cameron was like, get the fuck out of here.
I spent 8 years on burp noises.
So we got some intro we got some intro to Happy Gilmore. Let's do some interesting facts here. I found a couple things that I thought were pretty cool. Bob Barker actually studied Tang Soo Do karate for decades under Chuck Norris and his brother Aaron Norris. When Dugan told Bob Barker that a stunt double would be used in the fight scene, Barker insisted on doing his own stunts, saying, "Wait a minute, I know how to fight."
Seriously, how old is Bob Barker still alive?
Yeah, retired, but still alive.
Huh. So he had to have been at least in his 120s back then. Good for him.
Now, do you think it was just his pride of, being somebody that apparently knows how to fight? Or do you think he just really found Adam Sandler not scary at all?
I think it was, I think you're right. I think it was probably both though. Because he was probably like, I know how to fight. And then he was probably like, I'm going to punch this shithole in the face.
Yeah, that's awesome. So he was 73 at the time of this movie, and he is now 94.
Oh, that's it? Oh, he's got a few years left in the tank. Good for him.
Before his first tournament, Happy goes to Chubbs and says, "Why don't you play a real sport, like football or something?" Carl Weathers, who played Chubbs, was a professional football player before becoming an actor. I thought that was interesting, and I had no idea Carl Weathers was a former pro athlete.
What team so he played, NFL, AFL?
Yeah, played NFL for the Oakland Raiders for 2 years and CFL for 2 years.
I would have guessed Houston Oilers. I don't know why. He just seems like he would have played for the Oilers.
Okay. Houston should have went back to the Oilers.
And then brought Warren Moon back and let him just do his thing still.
You still got those 90s references. It's awesome.
They'll never die.
Hey, this kind of goes along with that Bob Barker thing we just talked about. So according to Adam Sandler, Christopher McDonald had difficulty believing Shooter would be afraid of fighting Happy due to the size advantage. McDonald is 6'3", while Sandler stands 5'10". They debated for a while until Sandler convinced McDonald that Shooter was afraid of Happy's violent temper.
Yeah, well, he eats pieces of shit like that for breakfast, so I don't doubt for a second that there's a fear factor.
Kevin Costner was offered the role of Shooter McGavin, but declined. However, he did play a golf pro in the movie Tin Cup in the exact same year, 1996. Good move or bad move for Kevin Costner passing on Happy Gilmore to do Tin Cup?
Oh, Kevin Costner's much more of a Tin Cup.
Yeah.
Hands down, that was the right move to play.
It's also a good movie. I actually like Tin Cup quite a bit.
You would. You probably also like Bull Durham.
I do like Bull Durham.
How did I know? How did I know? I bet you hate Brewster's Millions.
I do hate Brewster's Millions. It's like,
Come
you know
on,
me.
who hates Brewster's Millions?
Yeah,
Only
that's me.
people that like Bull Durham. I consequently love Brewster's Millions and don't like Bull Durham.
And
Hate
this was
you.
on the heels of he had just done Waterworld, so I'm sure he was afraid, like, man, if I do another film that kind of flops, my career might be in trouble. So Tin Cup might have been the safe play.
Definitely the
Although
safe play.
It did do pretty well. 76 million worldwide. So Tin Cup did better than Happy Gilmore. Good choice, Kevin. I can't call
Shout
him
out
Kevin.
to Kevin
Mr.
Costner.
Costner.
Mr. Costner, tweet at us. Come on the show. Let us know how difficult it was to choose between Happy Gilmore and Tin Cup when all you wanted to do was make a golf movie.
In 2011, an interview with the AV Club, Christopher McDonald claims he originally turned down the role of Shooter several times because he was growing tired of being typecast as an antagonist. He reconsidered playing the role as he had enjoyed Sandler's previous film, Billy Madison, and while he was playing a golf tournament in Seattle while taking a break from filming his previous movie in Vancouver, realizing that he was playing an antagonist in a comedy and having been satisfied with the script, he asked for an arrangement to be made so he could meet Adam Sandler to discuss the movie. Upon their first meeting, McDonald ultimately decided to accept the role and said it remains to be one of the best decisions of his career.
And then consequently enough, he went a few years later to play Travis Cole in Dirty Work, another antagonist.
Yeah, it seems like he's pretty much just decided at this point, like, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Might as well just keep making that money. Because he's not being cast as like the lead role in anything. I mean, do you blame the guy?
Hey, you're an actor, you're successful, you're cast, and you're good.
Right.
Where's the complaints?
Let's close up the interesting facts here, and we're going to move into the review here. So let's take a quick bathroom break, and we'll be back on the other side with a clip from Happy Gilmore. Thank you for clicking the download button on today's episode. We want to thank you guys for supporting the podcast. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe. That is the best way to help support us. You can also follow us on social media at Back in Time Pod, at Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook is facebook.com/backintimepod. We're also on the web at backintimepod.wordpress.com or shoot us an email, backintimepodcast@gmail. So we also have a poll topic up right now for the first film in trilogy movies, and you can vote between Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Karate Kid, Three Ninjas, or Honey, I Shrunk the Kid. So zoom over to our Twitter right now and vote on what you want us to review next. And we're going to let you guys pick, as we always do. So here's a clip from Happy Gilmore, and we're going to be back on the other side with the full review.
Wait a minute, what are you doing, Doc? I need fuel.
You're gonna beat me? At golf? Oh, you're on. You're in big trouble, though, pal. I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast.
You eat pieces of shit for breakfast?
No.
All right, welcome back. Let's jump into some Happy Gilmore here, JD. You ready?
Dude, do giraffes have two penises?
No.
Oh. Well, regardless, I'm ready.
Okay. The movie begins, a voiceover starts up, says, "My name is Happy Gilmore, and ever since I can remember, I've always loved hockey. I was never a great skater, but that didn't stop me from learning how to hit a mean slap shot." So we're watching a home video here, and throughout the opening sequence, in one of the scenes, Happy hits a slap shot that actually kills his father, and he's sent to live with his grandma, who answers the door with a Gene Simmons mask on. After high school, he's playing junior hockey and had the most minutes spent in the penalty box ever. We see him go through various jobs, including a construction job where he shoots his boss in the head with a nail gun. It's also a hilarious sequence because everything revolves around him humping. After that, we see him in a hospital bed. After he gets beat up by his boss, he says, "You got a few lucky punches in, but I still feel like I won the fight." He gives the camera a thumbs up. At the end, it says he was put on this earth to do one thing, to play hockey. JD, what do you think of this opening sequence here?
I think we're back-to-back weeks where we have this throwback intro sequence the same way that Dirty Work had. I think it's a sequence that worked very well in the 90s that I don't think modern movies can really take advantage of. I personally did not remember Happy Gilmore starting this way, but it really sets the scene. It takes, from a writing standpoint, it fast tracks character development because we know so much about Happy Gilmore from childhood to losing his father to moving in with his grandmother to humping, billy clubs and mobs. Like
Pretty
we
much
know so
anything
much.
he can get his hand on.
Yeah, whatever he can stick between his legs, he'll hump. And so we know so much about his character, and then boom, we get to him at modern times where, much like in Dirty Work, his ass is getting kicked to the curb.
What do you think of Adam Sandler in the role of Happy Gilmore?
I think to me, it reminds me of his role in The Cosby Show. Do you remember when he was in The Cosby Show?
I do not.
He played the token white guy. He was one of Theo's friends in an episode. But he looks like that, and he's got that that token oversized plaid, and he's got the orange shirt going on, and his jogging pants and his Penguins cap. No, he's meant for this role. And we discussed before other characters that were Jim Carrey was potentially going to be that part, and it couldn't be.
Wow, yeah, he had 4 episodes as Smitty in 1987 and 88. It was his first ever role.
He was in that many episodes. I only remember him being in one episode.
I love that his name was Smitty.
Well, he's white, so why would his name not be Smitty?
Point well taken. Hey, JD, what's your favorite Adam Sandler movie, and why is it Little Nicky?
Am I hijacking the episode and we're just going to spend the rest of the time talking about how great Little Nicky and Pete Schnaps are?
You can do whatever you want, man. Is that your favorite
right
movie?
again.
I know we joke about it, but...
My favorite Adam Sandler movie?
Yeah.
That's a bully of a question. Legit? Do you want to know what I would say is my favorite Adam Sandler movie?
No, I asked it so you wouldn't answer it.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead and tell me.
You son of a bitch bastard. Well, for sake of I don't have a better answer, I'm going to say Dirty Work. He was fantastic in Dirty Work.
I don't like your choice.
No, I think
I would have appreciated you saying you don't mess with the Zohan. So at least I knew you were joking.
Yeah, but only you and Harrison Brewer have seen You Don't Mess with the Zohan.
True. I would say mine, in a serious note, is, and I was mad that it didn't win the poll topic.
Oh, stop
is his role in Wedding Singer as Robbie Hart.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Bulletproof. Damn you.
No, Wedding Singer. I love that movie. So anyway, Adam is, or I can't say Adam. Happy is trying out for a hockey team next. The coaches say this is his 10th tryout. He gives great effort, but he can't skate well. Can't handle a puck either, but man, can he hit that thing. And he hits a shot that breaks the glass where they're standing. The next scene, they're calling out the names of all the guys that made the team. Happy is one of the 3 guys whose name isn't called. He approaches the coach and says, "What about me?" Coach says, "I didn't call your name." Checks his note and looks up and says, "Better luck next year." And starts laughing, so Happy takes off his gloves and proceeds to beat the hell out of him in front of the entire team while yelling at him, "You think you're better than me?" What'd you think of that scene?
I think the coach had it coming. I'm so happy that we had already done an episode on the Mighty Ducks. So we've got so this is our second hockey movie. But that's a really good question. Is this a hockey movie or a golf movie?
Oh, it's a golf movie.
I kind of feel like it's a hockey movie. Regardless. It was so good to see him to enact his vengeance and his rage. And I think it goes into what you were saying earlier about, Shooter being like, why would I be afraid of him? Because Happy Gilmore is fearless. Happy Gilmore is the Wolverine of Adam Sandler characters.
Happy enters his apartment building. His girlfriend is leaving, though, and she's got a bag around her shoulder. She gets into the elevator and tells him she's not coming back. Happy rushes into the apartment and gets on the intercom speaker. She tells him he's going nowhere and he's not good at hockey either. Happy says, "Well, you're a lousy kindergarten teacher. I've seen those finger paints you bring home and they suck." And then he steps back and comes right back to the intercom and goes, "I'm sorry, babe. I didn't mean that. I think they're great." And then they start arguing. It goes back and forth. And eventually it's just Happy just talking to nobody, and she's not there. A little like teenage boy walks up, and then an older Chinese lady goes to the intercom, and the door finally opens up, and he thinks it's his girlfriend coming back, but it's this elderly Chinese lady. What do you think of this scene?
I think anytime that like I've ever been in an apartment that has an intercom, I've always wanted this to happen to me. And so there's been times when I've gone and I've like hit the button and I've like talked outside and been like, hey, if you're downstairs, why don't you come on upstairs? Hoping to find like, you know, an elderly Chinese woman or a teenager or his hot girlfriend, anybody, you know, hey, come on upstairs. Let's party. But the payoff really comes in the next scene when I'll let you kick the next scene off.
Yeah, so he's woken by the phone and he answers and says, I'll be right there. He rushes out and the older lady emerges from the kitchen wearing his hockey jersey. You don't want breakfast?
It's so great. I remember watching this movie again, you know, with my uncle in Indianapolis and the rest of my family, and just an outburst of laughter when she you don't want breakfast? Apologies to our Asian fans. I mean, no disrespect, but that's how she says it.
Yeah. No, that's literally the line.
And what is she has Lucky Charms?
Yeah. The funny part is, she's wearing the hockey jersey and she's making cereal. So,
and he definitely hit that. He beaked her. Oh,
she was the one looking the beak. She showed up.
Oh yeah, she was just walking by outside, and she was like, "Oh, there's some beak to be had." Wow, who can say no to beaking?
Happy arrives at Grandma's house. Movers are taking the furniture out of the house. Happy runs and jumps on the couch to put it back down. A man comes out with his grandma, and he says, "Your grandma hasn't paid her taxes in 12 years." Grandma says I would have paid them, but I didn't have any money. Happy says, you can't take her stuff. She's old. I mean, look at her. She's old. And the bank guy says, now you're going to be really mad at me because we have to take the house too. Happy says, you can't take it. My grandpa built this house with his own two hands. The banker says, she owes $270,000. You have 90 days to pay it or we will be forced to sell it. And then he wants to know, do you hate me? Abby says, no. And then the next shot here is the banker being thrown out of the window and down the stairs. And then he sits up and says, yep, he hates me.
Total Mitch Weaver style. Jesse owes us a shot for this one.
Yeah, I do notice a lot of similarities here between the two movies. And they're both really good friends, so makes you wonder. Maybe cutting the corners a little bit. $270,000 in back taxes? Does that sound right? I don't pay that much in taxes.
Yeah, but over 12 years, that's about how much sent Wesley Snipes to prison.
Well, I mean, I guess if you put a ton of interest on it, I think property taxes are only like a couple grand, aren't they? It's not like a ton of money. I don't know. That seems a little odd, that total, but we'll give him the benefit of the doubt here. So Happy's dropping off Grandma at a nursing home next. Happy says, hell, this looks more like a country club than a nursing home. Hope you brought your bathing suit. And then an elderly lady jumps on the car. Mister! And he puts his head out the window and starts dumping some fast food on her. Says, here, take it. Leave us alone. That's the first time we're going to see the Mista lady. She's going to be in some more scenes here. But what'd you think of the first shot with Mista?
I'm glad that she comes back. I feel it's like so ominous that she jumps on the car like that. Right? Like, and it just only makes sense that he would be just dumping food on her. Like,
right. Take these French fries.
Some random stranger jumps on my car. I happen to have fast food. Let me just dump it on the person.
Maybe she was hungry. That's why she was acting up. But, so Happy drops off Grandma, and we meet Hal. He's being played here by Ben Stiller, and he's rocking a pretty sweet porn stash here. What do you think of Ben Stiller in the role of Hal?
Dude, the first time that I watched this movie as a kid, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like maybe watched 3 or 4 as a teenager where I was like, holy moly, that's Ben Stiller.
So I'm going to play a clip right now, and we're going to listen to Ben Stiller here, and he appears to be a nice guy, but let's see what happens when Happy leaves.
In the meantime, just stay here and have some fun.
I will do. Don't worry.
Oh, pardon me, but it's nap time.
All right, nap, that sounds nice.
You go on.
I love you.
I love you too, darling.
Okay, bye.
Goodbye.
Hey, buddy. I want you to do me a favor. You see that lady? She's very important to me, okay? Okay. So, I want you to take extra special care of her. You know what I'm talking about here? I can't accept that. But I'll tell you what I can do. I can take extra special care of that young lady over there for nothing. Okay, I appreciate that. Have a nice afternoon.
Sir, could I trouble you for a glass of warm milk? It helps put me to sleep.
You could trouble me for a warm glass of shut the hell up. Now you will go to sleep, or I will put you to sleep. Check out the name tag. You're in my world now, Grandma.
Oh, dear.
So this is the first time that we get to see Ben Stiller, and yeah, obviously his porn stash is out of this world. I think that he pretty much just calls it a normal stash. You know, when you get around the block as many times as he does, it's just normal. It's par for the course. The first time that I watched this movie, I honestly don't remember or didn't pick up on that it was Ben Stiller. Did you?
I don't know that I really knew him yet as an actor. Because this is kind of There's Something About Mary, so he had not been like really a leading man at this point in many things that I had seen. So no disrespect to his early career. Just from a writing standpoint, we're about a third of the way through the movie so far. What do you think about the writing and kind of the direction of the script at this point?
It's difficult to judge a comedy script because a lot of the jokes fall on the shoulders of the comedian. So in terms of writing, like, you have to rely on convenience a lot, and a lot of things just happen to happen at the best and perfect possible way to fit the story.
Yeah.
So you can't critique a movie, especially a movie as big and as, successful and as funny as this movie is, and say like it's badly written, poorly written, because it takes a good comedian and good actors to execute on the jokes, which have to be written and implemented to begin with. So I mean, overall, it's you can't fault it for any of its faults.
So we're back at Grandma's house next, and the mover guys are outside trying to play some golf here. I never noticed this until rewatching this for the first time. This is a young Will Sasso with a full head of hair. Are you a fan of Will Sasso, JD?
No, I'm not, but I always laugh that it's him in this role. But I gotta say, I'm not really a Will Sasso fan. But that's probably a lot because I didn't like Mad TV, the TV show.
Oh, okay.
And so, every time I see him, it just reminds me of how much I hated that show. Yet I watched it every Saturday.
Yeah, I thought he played a really good Curly in the Three Stooges reboot. And then he's got a podcast called the 10-Minute Podcast where he does a lot of impersonations. Does an awesome Hulk Hogan and Stone Cold Steve Austin. So if you've never heard that, it's only 10 minutes long. Check it out. It's a really great podcast. But anyway, we'll keep moving on from Will Sasso here. So Happy wants them to get back to work, and he wants to watch the hockey game, and the mover guy tells him, I'll tell you what, if you can hit a ball past mine, we'll go back to work. Guy says, this is hilarious. Look how he's standing. So Happy's kind of taking like a running head start, and he smashes the ball all the way down the street into the house at the very end. And the mover guy says, that's lucky. That's beginner's luck. I'll give you $20 here if you can do that again. Happy smashes another one. This time it hits the neighbor who's outside yelling at them. He says, double or nothing. He gets a third ball, and this one hits the wife who's looking out at the top window and knocks her down the front of the house. What do you think of this scene and our first shot of that patented walk up, just hit it as hard as you can, Happy Gilmore swing?
I can't believe that they challenge him as many times as they do, because that's clearly not beginner's luck, the way that he just gorilla nuts that ball. Like, he's King Kong on it. He winds up in...
that's not like a real big into golf. Number one, it's really hard to hit a ball really far. Number two, it's hard to hit it straight. That's the hardest part, and he crushes that thing dead center.
Yeah, he's like a Gomez Adams with his golfing skill.
Nice comparison. So Happy's at the driving range next. He's taking bets on how far he can hit the ball. Meanwhile, we have our first shot of Chubbs here, played by the great Carl Weathers. JD, what do you think of our first shot of Carl Weathers here?
I love how little he's paying attention. Like, he's like the ultimate golf pro. Like, he's everything that I ever envision a golf pro being.
Right.
Where he's just not paying any attention to this girl. And I got to say, I've tried this shtick before. Anytime I've had to coach or teach Regis, that's great. Just going with that. It's hilarious.
Yeah, meanwhile, she dribbled the ball off the tee about a foot, and it landed behind her.
And it doesn't matter because her check cleared.
Right, exactly. So Chubbs eventually hears a crowd of people at the other end of the range, and he sits up to see Happy crush the ball all the way down the range. A guy wants to know how often he plays, to Happy, that is. He says, yeah, this is my first time. Well, you should play in the Waterbury Open tomorrow. Happy says, yeah, I'll see you there. And Chubbs says to himself, oh, he's going to play. By God, he's going to win. What do you think is his motivation here to help Happy?
See, goes back to what I was saying just a few minutes ago about how the story relies on convenience so much. Like,
yeah,
Happy just happens to go to, this driving range where Chubbs just happens to be lazily working. There just happens to be a tournament that anybody can just go join. Like,
right.
If
Very
this was
convenient.
a thing, like how many times would you have joined, like, just walk up amateur tournament, be like, oh, I get a chance to play on the professional golf tour? Like, why would I not do this?
Right. And it's like that weekend. So it's not like, hey, you should come in 4 months to the Waterbury Open and try out. He would have been like, oh, never. But like the next day, sure, I'll play. Why not? We've got Happy in the batting cage next, and the kid in there tells him he needs to wear a helmet. Happy says he'll be fine. He pumps himself up a little bit and then starts jumping in front of the ball here. And these are 90-mile-an-hour fastballs. One hits him in the chest. The other one hits him in the forehead. Just goes, oh, that one hurts, but I'm okay. Chubbs comes over and pulls the cord. So you're a hockey player, huh? Well, you're going to give that shit up and focus on golf. Chubbs introduces himself and offers to help him. He said, you don't know who I am, do you? Happy, of course, doesn't. He says in 1964, Sports Illustrated said he was the next big thing, but the tour wouldn't let me continue playing. Happy says, oh, because you're black? Hell no! Because a damn alligator bit my hand off. Happy's horrified. Chubbs shows him the alligator eye that he keeps in his pocket. Chubbs tries to convince him that both sports are similar and require you to have skill. Happy says golf requires goofy pants and a fat ass. You should talk to my neighbor, the accountant. Huge ass. Happy starts swinging his hockey stick at some pop cans. He takes another swing that knocks the hand off of Chubbs. He said, it's all right, made of solid wood, real sturdy, until a truck comes by and runs it over. Happy gets into his car to leave, and Chubbs yells, I thought you were pro material, primed to make the big bucks. And that's what finally causes Happy to put his car in reverse, and he wants to know what kind of big bucks. So, kind of a long scene, a lot to digest here, but what'd you think of this scene here, JD?
It's a good setup for the depth of Happy Gilmore's character and the shallowness of him at the same time, because, watching him take those baseballs is something that every kid immediately thought about doing. I know you went to batting cages and considered toughening up for sports. Did you ever do that,
No,
though?
Never.
Be bold. Have you ever had a rock fight before? I bet it's
Yes.
similar to a rock fight.
Yeah, my football coach used to say that to us in high school. He'd go, you know what? You guys could screw up a rock fight.
What does that mean?
Apparently that means we could screw up anything, including 24 dive.
How do you screw up?
We always laughed. That was one of the things we always made fun of him for. So Happy arrives at the golf course the next day. Chubbs comes running up, super happy. Happy makes the comment that he should have played a real sport like football or hockey. Chubbs says, my mom wouldn't let me. She wouldn't sign the permission slip. Of course, in real life, Carl Weathers played Division I football for San Diego State as a defensive end, went undrafted but made the Oakland Raiders squad for 2 years in the 70s when the real men played, and then 2 more seasons in the CFL. During the off seasons, he would finish up his degree at San Francisco State University in drama and eventually retired from football in 1974 to focus on his acting career. Of course, 4 short years later, he's in the Best Picture of the Year as Apollo Creed in Rocky. What do you think of that background on Carl Weathers? I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I really never knew that he was a professional athlete. I mean, it makes perfect sense.
Right. He definitely looks like one if you remember him in Apollo Creed or Predator.
Yeah, and we've talked a little bit about Carl Weathers in the past, I believe. I mean, he's a great actor, and to know that he has that sort of pedigree of professional sports underneath him is I think that's really cool. Hats off to him. Like literally, I'm not wearing a hat right now, so my hat is off to him.
And just quick correction, I said 4 years. It would have been 2 years later. So Rocky came out in 76. I stand corrected. I love the part of the next scene here where Happy shakes Chubbs' hand, but he can only grab the 2 fingers because it's all smashed up now. That part always makes me laugh. We meet 2 characters in the next scene here. We have Christopher McDonald as Shooter McGavin. We have Julie Bowen, who's playing Virginia Vennett. Shooter compliments her as she walks up and they start to talk back and forth when he interrupts and says, "You know what would be great? If you could get me a Pepsi." And he walks away and he turns back and said, "Oh yeah, miss, make it a diet." What do you think of these 2 here in our first shot of Shooter McGavin?
Dude, Shooter comes off like a freaking pit bull. He's a bottle rocket right in the asshole category. Like, it's, to me, it's a mixture of good acting and then a well-written character. You know, like hey, get me a Pepsi.
Yeah.
And then wait, bang, bang, make it a diet.
Make it a diet. What about anything to add on Virginia?
Meet Virginia. I definitely had a thing for her when I first saw this movie. She made an impression on me when I was a kid. I don't necessarily think that her beauty holds up now, but she's in this role. She's pretty decent, right?
No, yeah, I think she does a great job of kind of reining him in, as we'll find out in the later part of the movie here. Shooter's introduced to the crowd next. He makes a quick little speech, and he says, "Hey, you should have saw this guy play yesterday. Let me tell you, he spends more time in the sand than David Hasselhoff." Everybody cracks up except for Happy because he doesn't really get the reference. Happy's called to the tee box. His caddy comes around to carry his club. Happy pushes him down. He apologizes to the kid. He just wants the kid to make sure he doesn't do anything stupid. Meanwhile, he's standing directly in front of the first tee, and his partner comes up and they have to ask him to move away. So he walks back over to the kids and says, "Where were you on that one, dipshit?" I don't know how many times I've said that in my life, but I've always stole that quote. Happy takes his first swing here, and he misses wildly. Chubbs calls time and gets behind him and starts swaying him back and forth and tells him he's just trying to ease the tension, baby. And then Happy proceeds to hit the ball onto the green next. And Chubbs says, "All we have to do now is focus on putting." So what do you think of this first shot of Happy playing real golf?
You know, I don't know what I necessarily expected. If like you're expecting him to do well, if you're expecting him to do bad. Like you said earlier, golfing is a lot harder than just striking the ball with as much force as you can. Getting it to go straight is much more than half the battle. And that sort of always baffles me about all of his drives is he doesn't swing with any precision. It's just as hard as he can, and he just always happens to get it right where it needs to go.
Yep, and he does 5-putt. So on a par 5, he bogeys his first hole. One of the guys in the crowd says, "It's about time." Happy walks over and pulls the shirt over his head and punches him in the face. The next shot, we get a hole-in-one. He tells Chubbs, "That's much easier. I'm just going to try and get the ball in the first time every single time." And we have a compilation next of Happy hitting great shots, terrible shots, difficult shots. He even jumps into the water at one point to get his ball from the bottom of the lake. The audience is cheering him, which if you're a golf fan, you know that's never happening unless it's like the last hole. There's usually just the what they call the crowd clap, very soft. So we get to the last hole here. Chubbs tells him, "All you have to do is get it in 4 shots and you win the tournament here. So just tap it in. Just tap it." He hits it really short on the first one, hits it really short the second time. Third time, Chubb says, "Just tap it in." He gets a little bit closer, and now Happy's mocking him. "Just tap it in, just tap it in." And then he hits it, finally makes the shot, and right before he hits his last shot, he goes, "Grandma, Grandma." And then he sinks the putt. So he tries to high-five Chubbs here, but he just ends up tapping him in the hand and then tackles his caddy to the ground. What do you think of the ending of this first day of golf for Happy?
I think Happy ends on a happy note here. It's kind of, we get to see the first glimpse of his happy place, which, you know, we'll talk about more later. And it's just, you know, as you were describing that scene, it reminded me so much of like his character in The Water Boy, where it's like the exact same thing, but the opposite.
Right.
Where he has to get into his Gatorade little shtick that he has. And I never really made the comparison between those two characters before.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's a good take. So Happy's going on tour. Shooter's not too excited about it. Happy meets Virginia for the first time. She tells him his shot on 4 must be some sort of record. Happy says he has a hockey record. He's the only guy to ever take off his skate and try and stab someone. Happy says he's bummed he didn't win any money, but she assures him next week the winner will take home over $200,000, and even if he places last, he'll win $4,200. Happy tells Chubbs that it's the first trophy he's ever won. Chubbs wants him to wait so he can start working with him before he jumps on tour to make sure he's ready. But Happy says he can't. He needs to start making money now. Chubbs says, stop acting like a damn fool. Back at the nursing home, Sal's working on a deal for more quilts. He tells everyone to turn up their volumes. He's got some good news, and he's extending arts and crafts by 4 hours. One lady says, my fingers hurt. Sal says, well, now your back's going to hurt because you just pulled landscaping duty. Anyone else's fingers hurt? And then Happy shows up, and Sal looks over at Grandma and tells her to zip it. What do you think of this scene here with Hal negotiating some type of deal here for quilts?
I like the subplot that comes from him and, everything that Ben Stiller provides. Because it's like this whole like unspoken subplot where he's got this hidden deal. He's got secrets. He's being an asshole. Like, I want to know more about him. I kind of want to know what kind of torment he went through as a child. Was he bullied? Was it his parents' fault? What's his story?
Well, we don't ever really find out. There's never any closure with Hal's character.
We can just assume that maybe this is some relation to, Ben Stiller from Heavyweights. Maybe there's some sociopathic tendencies that both characters carry, and maybe they're the same. Who knows?
Yeah. So Happy goes into Grandma's room, and he tells her he's found out a way to get the money to save the house. Grandma says, that's great, because I can't stand to live here for another moment. And she looks out her window and sees Hal giving her the shush sign and also the gun to the head sign. She tells Happy that her AC isn't working, and that's the reason she can't stand to be here. Happy tells her he'll fix it. He goes over to the window and just pounds on it, and it falls out and lands on the Mista lady who's laying on the ground. Mista, get this off of me. Happy says, the Mista lady? I think I just killed her. We see Happy showing up at the club, and he wants to know when they're going to tap the keg. Everyone's all dressed up. Happy's wearing an AC/DC shirt, jeans, and a hat. Shooter tells him, dress up tonight and meet us on the 18th green at 9 p.m. And make sure you wear something really nice. So we go later in the night. He's standing there waiting for everybody to show up. He's got his nice suit on, and the sprinklers turn on and just drench him here. What do you think of this opening scene here with Happy kind of meeting all the other golfers and pulling the old 18th at 9 o'clock?
Is it the 18th at 9?
Or is it the 9th at 9? Yeah, that makes more sense. I stand corrected. I think it is the 9th at 9. That would make more sense because the 9th green's always right by the clubhouse.
Oh,
so
okay.
You wouldn't have to walk all that far. Yeah.
Golfing in your Jordans, probably.
Can't wear Jordans on a golf course. But yeah, so Happy runs into Virginia here. And he wants to know where Shooter is because he needs to beat the piss out of him. Virginia convinces him not to do it because that's just going to create more work for her. Happy leaves by saying, my girlfriend is dead. She fell off a cliff and died on impact. Why do you think he's saying this to her? It's so awkward.
He's immature. Like, he's got the mental capacity of like a 12-year-old. Like, if how he had a girlfriend to begin with is like much in line with however Mitch Weaver had a girlfriend at the beginning of Dirty Work. Like, I get how he wins the girl at the end, but like, my goodness, he's so mentally and emotionally stunted. Like that would be what he says, and I think that really, credit to the writers for giving some, subtle depth to both his personality and his emotional shallowness or lack thereof.
So we have our first Otto scene next. He's cleaning Happy's window. Happy gives him his last buck, and Otto's escorted out by security. Happy goes to check in. He introduces himself as a hockey player, but he's playing golf today. And he finds out that on tour, he has to provide his own caddy. So he goes out and gets Otto, and we meet Potter next, played by Kevin Nealon. Let's talk about our new characters here. So we got Potter by Kevin Nealon, and then Otto, played by Alan Covert. Are you a fan of either one of these guys here?
Dude, I'm a fan of both of them, and both of their combined work in Grandma's Boy makes that like one of the ultimate hilarious movies.
That is one of my favorite movies.
If the DeLorean can ever make it up to 2006, what is that, 2006?
Yep.
That would be a fun one. I haven't seen that in a while, but that movie is just phenomenal. And they're both hilarious in it.
Yep. Got a young Jonah Hill in that movie. So what did you think of that scene here with Potter and just his spirituality to the game of golf?
Is that normal to Kevin Nealon's shtick? Because that's really similar to his character, Mr. Cheezel in Grandma's Boy, where he's all about the teas and the yoga and the feeling the rhythm. I mean, right? I mean, what else? I'm trying to think of what else Kevin Nealon's in.
He's also in the show Weeds. He's very spiritual like that as well, I believe. If I'm remembering that one right. But yeah, that might just be kind of how he is, and they just continue the post stuff with him on there.
I'm okay with that.
So Happy tees off next, and he's got tube socks as head covers here, which cracked me up. He takes a swing and misses, and then proceeds to drop about 20 cuss words here. Everyone just stares at him like he's an alien. He crushes his second shot, which lands on the green. On the green, Potter marks his ball with a quarter, and as he walks away, Otto goes over and picks up the quarter and puts it in his pocket. Happy sinks the putt and eagles his first hole, and he runs around screaming with the crowd. Shooter's caddy recommends a 5-iron in the next scene here, and Shooter says, "Oh, okay, give me the wedge." And then he sinks a chip shot and then proceeds to fire his caddy for recommending the wrong club. Chubbs is watching on TV.
Could we focus real quick on how that's just classic Shooter?
Yes.
Well, you're fired.
I mean, it just goes to continue we don't want to like this guy, and they do a good job of making sure we don't. But Chubbs is watching on TV here, and he sees Happy riding around on a bull. He goes, "Come on, Happy, looking like a damn fool." And then they show a shot of Grandma in the nursing home, and she's riding a bull in the nursing home, which I thought was funny. The announcer makes the comment that Shooter's crowd is surprisingly small, and most of the crowd has made their way over to Happy Gilmore, who's on the green here with Potter again. Potter gives him another pep talk, and Happy goes to make his putt shot here. So this kind of winds down this first scene here, at least, of golfing on the tour. What do you think of this opening round?
I think that Shooter McGavin, and you might be hitting on this in a moment, but he sums it up best when he's celebrating his victory, and his comment to the press just is, what did he finish? Oh yeah, dead last.
Yeah.
And it's such an upbeat and happy scene, but you really have to focus on the fact that he finishes dead last. Like, he's not even in this. Like, he might as well not have showed up.
Right. So the next scene here is the head of the tour is telling Virginia to start a press release about Happy Gilmore. He's being thrown off the tour. Virginia says, "You're right. His behavior's totally out of control, but she just got a phone call from Dallas, and they've already sold out for next week." The commissioner tells Virginia if he can clean up his act, he can stay, but he's your responsibility. So if he messes up, it's your ass. And then we see Shooter holding a press conference. He's got his big winning check, and as you just mentioned a second ago, he's really annoyed with the questions about Happy Gilmore. And he makes the comment that, yeah, where'd he finish? Dead last? Yeah, he had a good day. So Happy enters the bar, or actually I skipped over something. And so Happy approaches the official and wants to know where his check is. The guy tells him, "We don't have any more checks. We'll just mail it to you." And he points over at Shooter's check and says, "Just give me one of those." And then we see Happy entering the bar next. He gets a beer. Shooter tells the bar hop to put it on his tab, and he tries to make nice with Happy here, but he kind of sees right through it, and he says, "I know what you're trying to do here, and I don't like it. So why don't you shut your trap before I put my foot in it?" After they get into a little bit of a scuffle, Happy busts a beer bottle and holds it up to Shooter's neck. Shooter says, "Just stay out of my way or you'll pay. Listen to what I say." Happy responds with, "How about I just go eat some hay? I can make things out of clay, lay by the bay. What do you say?" I like the Dr. Seuss lines here. What do you think?
Dude, those are so quotable on the playground. Like, everybody, that was just what everyone was saying to everyone else. Like, any conversation ended like that. But it's outside of the comedy of it, it's a good comparison between the two characters, because Shooter's kind of he's kind of hot-headed in a lot of the same ways that Happy Gilmore is.
Sure.
And, the part is he's like, Shooter wants to take him on, but he wants to destroy him on the golf course. And, Happy Gilmore takes that as, fighting.
Right.
And so you're taking two characters and you're creating like similarities between the two of them, because even Shooter's, he's just a big asshole,
Right. Yep. Virginia tells Happy he has to keep it under control. No swearing, no hitting other players. Happy says he'll work on it, but he ain't gonna act like no stiff. Virginia says people will show up because you put on a show. Just keep it within reason. And then Happy wants to ask her out for dinner, but she says, I don't date golfers, which he, of course, responds with, good, because I'm a hockey player. She gives him a little smile, but she's not going out to dinner with him yet. Is it me, or is Happy looking the beak here?
Oh, Happy has the happy beak on. He wants to feel the rhythm and feel the ride and give her a little bull dance.
Yeah. So the next tournament starts up, and we see Happy's old construction boss here, Mr. Larson, who's played by Richard Kiel. He passed away in 2014 at the age of 74. This is his second to last movie he appeared in. At this point of his life, he was actually dealing with a lot of health issues that stemmed from a car accident, so he had a lot of issues with balance. So you'll notice in every scene, he either has a cane or he's kind of holding on to something or someone, and that was caused from some head trauma. He, of course, is famous for playing Jaws in the James Bond movie Moonraker from 1979. And he stood 7'2". What do you think of Mr. Larson here?
Hey, real quick, he's also in the original Longest Yard, isn't he?
He may be in the original Longest Yard. To be honest, I haven't watched the original.
Oh, really? It's pretty solid. I think it's underrated in terms of, being a movie from the 70s, and a lot of people just simply don't like movies from the 70s, I think.
The issue is I've just never had the opportunity to get my hands on it. I mean, other than going to like a secondhand shop and trying to buy it, but I've never seen it on Netflix or anything to just sit down and watch it.
Well, that's why you need a video store. If video stores are still around, you can go there tonight and you could pick it up and you can watch it and you can see him, and he's hilarious in it.
Yep, and he is in that movie. He's Samson.
So I just want to make the connection then, because, Adam Sandler then with the remake of The Longest Yard.
Yeah. No, that's a good comparison. So Happy walks up to the tee box here, and he turns around and he sees his old boss, Mr. Larson, standing there. He tells him not to be alarmed. He's truly proud of Happy, and then Happy wants to know when the, comes out. And he tells him, the nail comes out next week. And Happy says, well, good, you can hardly notice. Makes a face and turns around.
I hate that he makes that face. I feel so bad for him with the nail in his head,
right.
And then Happy Gilmore is responsible for it and then mocks him for it. Like,
he's like,
I don't like it.
Looks good, ship shape.
I just feel so bad for him in that instance. It's like, come on, Happy, don't be a jackass.
Yeah. So Mr. Larson is talking to Shooter McGavin on the next hole. He wants to know if he plans to reach the hole on his first shot. Shooter laughs and says, that's impossible. Mr. Larson tells him, no, that feat was actually accomplished about an hour ago by Happy Gilmore. Shooter turns around to see who's talking to and says, well, moron, good for Happy. Oh my God. And he's just astonished by the size of Mr. Larson, who then grabs a 9-iron out of his bag and bends it in half. So Shooter hits his shot really quick and just starts walking away even faster. What'd you think of that scene?
It's a prime example of Shooter trying to be bigger and tougher than he is.
Right.
Because he's an excellent golfer. There's no doubt. Like, his sleeves might be, one sleeve might be longer than the other, but he deserves that gold jacket because he's excellent. But he's not good when it comes to getting dirty or trash talking, fighting, like anything like that. You just instantly see his foot go right up his mouth.
Yeah. I love this next scene here because they're just totally screwing with Shooter. So the announcers comment on the new crowd and that Happy has brought them in. They even say they saw one of those guys with a beer dispenser hat on. So Shooter's trying the putt next, and the crowd is just making a bunch of noise. They're blowing horns like they would if somebody's trying to shoot a free throw in a basketball game. He hits the shot, and then as he's walking off, he says, this is golf, people. Go back to your shanties.
Would that shit hold up, though? Would the officials not shut that down right away on the golf course?
Right, yeah,
like I can't imagine like that even in the slightest would hold up. Like they would have to swoop in and just put an end to that.
I feel like if if they allowed it, golf might be bigger than it is. If they allowed these guys to have more personality and make it fun to like go heckle other golfers to see them screw up.
Yeah, but that's like a prime difference between a lot of like the more high impact sports and low impact sports, because tennis is the same way.
Right. Nope. No. So Happy has a big putt coming up to finally win some real money here. And he wants to know what Otto thinks. He says, slightly downhill. Otto says, yeah, and slanted left. No, just seems that way because you're only wearing one shoe. They pan down. He's got one shoe on. And
that kills me every time.
Shooter signing an autograph for an old lady in the next scene, and we hear some crowd noise, and he turns, and it's Happy signing the breast of a young lady here. The old lady kind of pulls her autograph from Shooter and goes over and gets her signed as well. So he does not discriminate by age. I like that about Happy.
True story, true to life. I once saw a woman get her breast signed by Jeff Goldblum after he played a concert. So this kind of stuff is real. Like, apparently this is what happens with celebrities.
Yeah, I guess I've never tried it, so that goes over my head. But next scene here, Otto is supposed to be washing the ball for Happy. Instead, he's washing his underwear. And Happy just kind of shakes his head like, you gotta be kidding me. He hit the putt next that's well short. He gets ready to throw his putter, and he stops, and he kind of reels it in here. So it's the first time that he doesn't blow up, and he looks over at Virginia, and she's like, very good, thank you. So Happy hits a shot next. It lands in an alligator's mouth. Happy tells him to cough it up, you bastard. And he tries to grab it from him, but the alligator clamps down his jaws. And Happy notices the gator only has one eye. He says, Chubbs. The gator goes and jumps into the water. Happy jumps on his back and wrestles with him and proceeds to rain elbows down on his head until the gator's unconscious. He holds the ball up in the air and the crowd cheers. JD, how unlikely is this scenario? And do you think you could ever wrestle and win against an alligator?
All right, let's break this scenario down in its entirety, because one, this is a story of convenience.
Yes.
So he just happens to hit the ball at a gator, who just happens to be the gator that he's not just assuming this is the gator that bit off Chubbs' hand, right?
Sure is.
So how in the world? Because that was in the 60s.
That's what he said.
I don't know how long gators live.
They live a long time, actually.
Well, then, good.
Yeah.
And then he's just able to go wrestle it. You know, I've always fancied myself as one who would be able to wrestle a gator, but I don't know. All of my gator fighting lessons come from this movie, so I think as long as you can rain blows down on their head, I think you'll be good. So from that aspect, I think it's pretty logical and real.
You know, I was always taught, you know, when I would visit my uncle in Florida, he would say, you know, if you do come up on a gator, just zigzag because they can't go sideways. Throws them off. That, of course, is not true. And I found that out later in life. And he just liked to scare the shit out of me. So thanks, Uncle Larry.
Hey, that's a quality family member. Shout out to Uncle.
Shooter's talking with the golf commissioner next. His name is Doug Thompson. Interesting note, Doug Thompson is the director. It's Dennis Dugan. He always has some type of bit part in the movies that he directs. Shooter jokingly says, well, everyone seems to be coming around on Happy Gilmore. And Thompson's just like, yeah, it's been good. He goes, well, I'm not. He's ruining golf. I saw two fat bikers in the woods having sex. Thompson tells him that the ratings are up and they're attracting new youthful sponsors, so sorry. Shooter says to himself, well, I guess I'll have to take matters into my own hands. What do you think of this scene here?
Dude, I don't like it because it takes Shooter down a notch. Like, for him to go tattle, which I think is kind of into his character, but I always like to think of him as more nefarious and more devious. And I like it when he takes things into his own hands, because he knows that he can't put up his dukes. He can't be the one to fight the battle. So I guess it makes sense that he goes to tattle. Yeah,
but if you go by like, let's take like wrestling for an example. If you're a bad guy, you lie, you cheat, you do whatever you can to win, but you don't tattletale. If you tattletale, you're no longer a bad guy. You're just a puss.
And I don't think Shooter McGavin's a puss. I'm not saying that at all.
I can't imagine Ric Flair being like, you know, I don't like Steamboat because, you know, the fans cheer him too much. No, he would just low blow him and pin him.
I like that. I like your train of thought. I'm subscribing to it. I'm officially in.
Yeah. Happy calls home to Grandma and tells her that as long as he doesn't come in last in the next 2 tournaments, they're going to get the house back. Happy convinces Virginia to go on a date with him. She says, okay, but just as friends. Happy says, yeah, of course, I'm trying to get married on the first date here. So he ends up taking her to an ice rink, and of course he's got it all set up. So the guy driving the Zamboni says, anything for you, Happy Gilmore. And he clears the ice, and then the lights go off, and a strobe light turns on with slow music. Happy tells Virginia the story about why he's doing this and about his grandma and the house. She promises not to tell. Happy wants to play a little game here, and if she shoots the puck and misses the goal, then she has to give him a big fat kiss and pretend that she likes it. So she shoots and scores. Happy says, holy shit, talk about your all-time backfires. Virginia says, Happy, I didn't see it go in. And they start making out. And it's safe to say they're on the road to Beaktown.
Yeah, the road to Beaktown, sometimes it's bumpy. Sometimes it's a little bit roller coaster. There's some hills, there's some valleys. Sometimes there's a thunderstorm. Sometimes you get pulled over by the police. But yeah, they are on the road to Beaktown.
Interesting. Next day, they are at the Pepsi Pro-Am here in San Francisco, and we meet his partner, Bob Barker. Barker tells him that him and Nick Faldo won this thing last year, and he's looking to do the same thing 2 years in a row. A guy behind him says, Happy, you suck, you jackass. And as Happy's getting ready to swing, right before he hits the ball, the guy yells, jackass. And then he whiffs it and hits it into the woods here. The next scene, Happy's hitting from the beach, and the heckler says, you're going to need a towel and some sunscreen because you're never leaving this beach, you jackass. Bob Barker's getting pretty pissed now at Happy, and he tells him, all right now, Happy, swing nice and easy. And he misses, and he goes, that was not nice and easy. They've dropped all the way to 45th place. Happy hits one in the water neck. Bob Barker drops his club and says, this guy sucks. Barker in the next scene says, he's just lecturing Happy now. He says, I can't believe you're this bad. You should be selling snacks in the pro shop, not playing golf. Happy finally has had enough. He punches him, but Bob gets up and proceeds to kick the crap out of him here with a number of jabs to the face. They end up rolling down a hill here. Happy headbutts him and says, the price is wrong, bitch. But Bob Barker shoots up, chokes him, knocks him back down. And then as he says, have you had enough? Happy starts to get up, and Bob Barker kicks him square in the face. Says, now you've had enough, bitch. This won the MTV Award for Best Fight Scene. What did you think, JD?
It deserves to win as Best Fight Scene. It's a hilarious scene, and it's sort of unpredictable. And you kind of think, like, Happy Gilmore's been throwing his weight around this entire movie, breaking bottles, taking off his skates to cut people. Like, you think of him as this massive badass, and then here comes Bob Barker, and he's just spaying and neutering cats and dogs all over the mother effing country. So, like, why would he not lay the smack down?
Ooh, I like that you went back to wrestling there.
Thank you.
So the heckler and Shooter are having a laugh about what has happened today. Shooter pays him off and tells him he won't be needed for the next tournament because this was live on television. The heckler tries to get Shooter to go to lunch at Red Lobster, but Shooter declines and walks away. Happy is in Thompson's office next. He's getting lectured. He's been fined $25,000 and suspended for 1 month. Happy's pissed. He's trying to plead to be able to play because he's got to make money. And then Shooter's pleading to have him kicked off the tournament. So in the next scene here, Happy and Virginia are sitting at a Subway, and Happy's just kind of consulting with her about screwing everything up and how now he's going to lose the house. Virginia says there has to be another way to make some money. Happy says, I just don't want to think about it. I just want to sit here and enjoy the one thing that truly makes me happy. Picks up his Subway sandwich. He says, it's fresh, tasty, meaty. And then the next thing is him finishing that quote and holding a sub in a commercial where he hits a sub to a guy that lands in his mouth. So he's going to get the money here. So he shows up with Virginia to show Grandma the commercial. And he tells her that put them up to $275,000 and they can go get the house back. JD, are you a fan of Subway? Because I'm going to need a go, no go for subs here.
I used to be a big fan of Subway, and then I discovered Jimmy John's, and I've never really looked back. I think Jimmy John's is a superior sub.
Okay, I'm going to throw you a curveball here. I always liked Subway more until I found out about Penn Station, and now it's Penn Station for me.
Okay. I'm going to throw you another curveball, and I'm going to say I actually think Subway makes a really good tuna sandwich.
Okay. There you are again with that tuna sandwich. You really like that thing.
I am a fan of the tuna.
Yeah. In the next scene here, Grandma's house is getting auctioned off. Happy approaches the guy from the bank that he punched earlier, who wishes him good luck with the bidding. So Happy immediately starts bidding and throws out his $275,000, and it gets outbid almost right away. And ends up settling for $350,000 to the man in the white sweater here in the front, which when the camera pans over, it's Shooter McGavin, who's bought the house. Happy wants to know what the hell is the matter with him. He tells Happy, if you lay one finger on me, I'm going to burn the house down and piss on the ashes. But if you quit, the house is yours. So he agrees, but Virginia steps in. And let's listen to a clip here from this scene. This might be one of the most quoted lines in the history of cinema here.
You're gonna beat me? At golf? Oh, you're on. You're in big trouble, though, pal. I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast.
You eat pieces of shit for breakfast?
No.
So JD, what did you think of the clip here and the iconic line there?
Yeah, I think that every morning when I eat breakfast and anytime I'm mad at somebody, I'm like, I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast. And then I think about what that would really be like. And it just kind of reminds me then of Anchorman, where you will eat the cat poop. Apparently eating shit for food is just a common theme in comedy movies.
Yeah. What's the line in Anchorman about the chocolate squirrel? I can't remember. It's skipping my brain right now.
Oh, gosh.
It's like the shit-covered squirrel.
I literally, Champ's like, I literally shit a squirrel, and then Brick's like, I ate it. Yeah. I ate your chocolate-covered squirrel.
So Happy tells Virginia to stay here with Grandma. I got to learn how to golf. The next scene, he's apologizing to Chubbs over and over and over again. And finally, Chubbs accepts. And they're going to go out to the mini golf course here called Happy Land. Happy says, this is embarrassing. I'm a professional golfer. Chubb says, what's embarrassing is your short game. And we have our classic 1990s film montage here next of Happy missing putts and destroying things. He gets stuck on a hole here with a clown that has a long tongue. Eventually, after it spits out his ball, he breaks the nose off with the with his putter. And then they have to move on to the next hole, which is the earthquake hole, which Chubbs tells them to think of a place that's perfect, his happy place. So apparently Happy's place includes a scantily clad Virginia carrying pitchers of beer, Grandma winning a slot machine and just a bunch of money, and a midget riding a tricycle. What'd you think of this scene?
So we get a whole lot of foreshadowing going on in this scene. Like pretty much the rest of the movie is sort of laid out for us. Like right. if you pay close enough attention, everything that is going to occur in the final act, we see in this scene.
Absolutely. So he does, after he gets to his happy place, he hits the ball and it goes straight into the hole. Pretty amazing. So they go back to Happy's apartment. He gives Happy a new putter. It's the same one he used when he played, but slightly modified. Basically, it's his hockey stick with just gold plated. Happy says, I got a surprise for you too. And he unveils the alligator that had attacked Chubbs. He says, remember the gator that got your hand? Well, I got his head. So he pulls open the thing. Chubbs just starts screaming and just keeps backing up until he falls right out the window. And I love the guy from the golf course that always is just shaking his head at the stuff Happy's doing. He's just like,
is that Lee Trevino?
What's that?
Is that Lee Trevino?
It might be. I didn't look up his name.
From this, you remember Lee Trevino's golf from The Simpsons?
Yes, that's a nice catch. Now, at the funeral, because Chubbs dies here, so at the funeral, Shooter shows up and says he's going to dedicate his victory to Chubbs. Happy says, the hell with that. I'm playing for Chubbs. Shooter says, nuh-uh, I called it first. So I love that they're playing these like little sophomore games with each other here.
They really are. They got a great back and forth. They're a great tit for tit here.
Yeah. So Virginia tells him to beat him on the course. So at the course the next day, Happy and Shooter are being paired together. Shooter hits his ball in the fairway, and then Happy follows up with a drive that lands right on the green. And he says, "You know what's pathetic? You've been playing golf your whole life." Shooter sinks his putt, but so does Happy. And he says, "Uh-oh, Happy learned how to putt." And this goes back and forth for a couple holes where they're just exchanging, good shot after good shot. And it seems like Happy's getting the best of him here in most of the exchanges. So after the first day, Shooter's in the lead, but Happy's actually second, just one stroke behind. So this next scene, we've got a compilation of different holes just from the next day. Happy and Shooter going back and forth, trading off birdies, pars, and they're tied at 4 under until Happy sinks a birdie on the last hole of the day. And, And after day 2, Happy's in the lead at 5 under, Shooter's at 4 under. And we see a shot here of Shooter in the woods trying to mimic the Happy Gilmore swing, but he can't do it. And then instead he kind of throws down his club and he makes a phone call to the heckler from the previous tournament. What'd you think of all these compilations of scenes here in this montage?
The one thing that I don't fully get is the score in this, because it seems like Happy Gilmore's kicking his ass.
It does come off that way.
Like he's easily outdriving Shooter by 75 to 150 yards per hole.
Safe to say.
So anything over like 300, Happy's going to take 2 strokes on him, especially since he can putt now.
So my guess is, with golf there's long holes and short ones. So my guess is Shooter's probably kicking his ass on the short game. So the par 3s he's probably birdieing. And then Happy's beating him up on the long courses. So
you think Happy Gilmore's still struggling with his short game a little bit? Because it makes it seem like he's impeccable. It makes it seem like he cannot miss. I would say he probably
struggles with his short iron. So from like 100 yards in, chipping and hitting his wedge, he's probably not great at that.
That's a really good point, because going back to the previous montage, like in all reality, Chubbs only spends 3 holes teaching him how to putt, and then all of a sudden he's got it. And he doesn't do anything about chipping or wedging, and I don't know any other golf terms at this point.
No, you pretty much nailed him. Happy starts off hot the next day and gets a great shot to open it up when we see a Beetle car come around the corner onto the course, and he's going to run over Happy here, and it's the heckler from earlier, and he yells, "Jackass!" before he crashes into a video recording tower. The heckler gets out with his arm on fire and starts running away, and again is yelling "Jackass" as he's running away here. The doctor comes up, approaches Happy, and tells him he needs to probably hang it up for the day, but he says, "Forget that, I'm finishing." The doctor's like, "Oh, what do I know? I'm a doctor." And he walks off, but Happy's lost the power to hit the long ball. The announcer says he's going to have to get it done on the green today, so he bogeys his first hole and drops out of the lead. The next shot here is him just missing some very makeable putts. Happy tries to go to his happy place, but this time in his head, Shooter shows up and makes out with Virginia and Grandma and takes all her money. Eventually, Happy kind of snaps out of his little memory thing and just screams, and then proceeds to hit the ball in the water and pound his club on the ground. And as he walks away, this is probably my favorite part of the scene here, Otto walks over, picks up a rock, and throws it into the lake.
Of course he does.
What do you think of this scene here?
So I got to focus on the technicalities of this. How many strokes is he losing? Is he even... I mean, I've gotten frustrated at golfing video games before and burned strokes, and I know that, you can't come back from one of those tantrums.
It's tough. It looks like he drops from what I'm seeing on what the scores they're posting, he drops from 5 under to even, that's tough. So the way that they're playing the first 2 days is they were only going maybe 2 strokes a day under, and then you keep adding those up as they go on. So to fall behind by 5 that's 3 days of catching up.
That's what every time I watch this movie, that's all I can focus on. I'm just scorecarding it. I can't help but think okay, how many strokes does he have now?
You know what I kind of thought about in this scene? It's kind of reminiscent of Rookie of the Year when Henry loses the ability to throw the heater, and he's got to kind of basically reinvent himself as the underhand throwing Henry Rollingardner to save the day.
Yeah, but Happy Gilmore doesn't really have that. He doesn't have that secondary nickel in his pocket where he gets to reinvent himself.
Not yet, but it may show up here. So
Uh-oh.
Grandma shows up and tells Happy she just wants him to be happy. So he goes back to his happy place. This time Chubbs is in there singing to him, "You've only just begun." What do you think of that? Pipes like an angel.
Dude, you sir can lay pipe like no one else.
So he comes out swinging, knocks it right onto the green. He tells Shooter, "It ain't over, McGavin. The way I see it, we've only just begun." And the next montage here is of Happy just hitting shot after shot, and Shooter getting pissed off as he puts one in the water. There's also a scene here where a beach ball floats onto the green and hits him in the back of the leg. And he yells, "Damn you people, this is golf!" And he pops the ball and then gets his shoots his putt and makes things "Shooter!" and walks off. It's just hilarious watching McDonald in this scene here. But what'd you think? Because he does mount a comeback. So when we get to the 18th hole, they say it's now back to even. So apparently he wins like 5 straight holes.
And Shooter's he's boiling over. He's breaking down. He shot his wad and he is doing just a classic meltdown.
Yep. And the thing is, like, Happy is apparently birdieing every hole and Shooter's either parring or bogeying. So he's doing a good job of catching up here. So they're on the 18th. It's a par 3, so it's only about 180 yards. Happy hits first, lands about 15 feet short of the pin. Great first shot. Shooter shanks his first one into the woods, and as he goes over to the crowd, he realizes his ball is right on top of Mr. Larson's foot. So he tries to get what they call in golf a drop, but he's told he's got to play it as it lies.
Hey, real quick, can you explain what a drop is for those people in the audience that don't know?
So that generally a drop occurs when your ball lands in a position that they deem unhittable. So something that would be out of your control, like, they had a storm and a tree fell down and the ball's underneath the tree. So they would allow you to drop the ball directly to the side of where that's at. So you can drop it from basically like a small circle in that area and kind of get it out of trouble. And it doesn't count as a hit. He hits the ball off of Mr. Larson's foot. And it goes off onto the fringe, which is just right off the edge of the putting green here. And Mr. Larson says, "That's 2. That's par, Shooter." "Oh, you can count. Good. You can count on me waiting for you in the parking lot." I love Mr. Larson in this movie.
He is so good. He provides such a good little extra little spice and pizzazz any scene that he's in. And he gives such a great deadpan delivery, and he's such a frightening and scary person. And the fact that, I always kind of envision that the ball lands next to his foot, and then he bends over and puts it on his shoe just to screw with Shooter.
Right. Yeah, I could see him doing that. We don't actually see it though, so hard to know. So Shooter's still further away, so he's going to have to hit first, because in golf, the guy farthest out always goes. A couple fans climb the tower to get a better view. Shooter sinks his putt. Difficult shot, probably about 40 feet out. Shooter yells, "Choke on that, baby!" Ba-boom! Shooter! Happy gets ready to hit. Otto, this cracked me up. Otto has his ball marked with a Ritz cracker, which he eats after he puts the ball down. And right before Happy can swing, the tower falls and gets in the way of Happy's shot. It's ruled that he's going to have to play it as it lies, though. And Shooter says, "I had to hit the ball off Frankenstein's fat foot, so you're up." Virginia's trying to convince him to just wait until the next day or to play it safe and just hit around it. He's like, "No, I'm just going to win it now." And he hits a shot that clings off of seemingly everything, every single post, every part of that tower, before even off of the car at one point. And eventually it goes through this metal tube and directly into the hole. Shooter screams in the background and the fans rush in to celebrate. And then the gold jacket comes out, which Shooter steals and takes off with it. Mr. Larson gives chase here along with a bunch of other fans, and they eventually catch up and kick the crap out of him. And all we can hear is Shooter screaming and Mr. Larson telling him to stay still. The last scene here, Happy, Otto, Virginia, and Grandma arrive back at Grandma's house. They pop some bubbly. Happy says here's the Chubbs, wherever he is. And he looks at the house, and apparently Chubbs is now hanging out with Abraham Lincoln and the alligator.
We get a little Star Wars scene here.
And Chubbs says, "Hey, Happy, that jacket looks great." Grandma wants to know what he's looking at. He says nothing. Let's go home. They walk into the house. What'd you think of the ending of the movie here?
I think 90s comedy movies, they all end the same way, because this is kind of like the same ending from Dirty Work, where just everything works out perfectly well, and they walk away and goodbye. That everything is summed up perfectly. Like, I want there to be a sequel, like Shooter's Revenge or something like that. I think that there's a thriller or a horror movie to be had in there.
Yeah, no, I definitely think there definitely could have been a sequel to this one, for sure. Because there's definitely more to this Shooter McGavin story and Happy Gilmore feud if they ever wanted to go down that road. I'd be interested. I mean, do you think Happy continues the golf now that he won back Grandma's house, or do you think he hangs it up?
No, I think that he continues to golf. I definitely do. And I think so because if you recall, when he's at the miniature golf place, he refers to himself as a professional golfer.
Right.
He's no longer a hockey player. He's no longer playing for Granny's house. He's no longer playing to one-up Shooter. He's playing because he is a professional golfer.
Good point. Yeah, I have to say I'm really glad that our audience picked this episode for us to review. I really enjoyed going back to watch Happy Gilmore. It's been several years since I watched it, and it's just there's so many quotable lines, like that line about the guy spending more time in the sand than David Hasselhoff. You better believe I'm going to be using that one this summer when I'm on the golf course and people land in the sand trap. So I'm looking forward to next week's episode, though, because we're going to be diving into some Cool Runnings, man. Let's preview that a little bit. What are you looking forward to most when we jump into Cool Runnings here?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are probably like you and probably like me and are probably super excited that the Winter Olympics are finally here.
Yep.
I got all of my curling stones out of storage. I've got my broom all bristled up. Like, I'm ready for the mother effing Winter Olympics. And so Cool Runnings is kind of like the perfect way to usher into February. It'll come out in February, right?
Yeah, February 9th through the 25th.
And it's like this perfect timing. And we get Cool Runnings. It's the 25th year anniversary for this movie. It's hilarious. We have John Candy. I mean, everything about this movie, I think, I don't know. I'm super stoked. I hope our audience is super stoked. If you're not, feel free to send us your hate mail over Twitter. If you guys are as excited as we are, let us know. Shout out to us. Send your favorite memes. Pictures, anything you want. Let's feel the rhythm and feel the ride.
So yeah, that Cool Runnings episode is going to drop our teaser trailer next Monday, which is February 5th. The full episode will come out on February 7th, which is Wednesday. And then, of course, the Olympics start on the 9th. So we just thought that was perfect timing to get into some Cool Runnings and do the right thing for her. So let's jump into our poll topic for the week. This is going to come out third week of February, and we're going to be doing movies that have a trilogy. So we're going to be doing the original of a movie that has at least 2 sequels to it. And we're going to have you guys vote, and we want to hear from you guys and what you want to hear us review. So the first topic here, the first movie you can vote on is going to be the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 1990. JD, what might we cover if our audience selects TMNT?
So we're definitely going to have some Corey Feldman action. We're going to see a lot of pizza. If I'm not mistaken, it's Domino's Pizza that is just everywhere.
It is Domino's. Yep.
Going to see some sweet karate action. We're going to see some Shredder. And if I'm not mistaken, is this the one with Super Shredder?
Yes.
And if I'm not mistaken again, Super Shredder is played by Kevin Nash.
Kevin Nash, big sexy.
So we get to drop some power bombs down on the audience.
Too sweet, as they would say. Number 2, speaking of karate, will be The Karate Kid, the 1984 martial arts movie about the young Daniel, played by Ralph Macchio. What might we cover if our audience selects The Karate Kid?
Definitely going to have some sweet Halloween costumes going on. Get to see one of my all-time favorite villains in Kreese, and then Johnny Lawrence.
Sweep the leg.
I almost said Billy Lawrence. all-time villains with, Johnny Lawrence, sweep the leg. And I think that this Karate Kid spawns, to me, the sequel to Karate Kid, which I hope we never do. Part 2 is really not that good. But if we ever get to Part 3 and we ever get to Terry Silver, now that is a villain that I can tip my hat to every day.
Absolutely. I'd suffer through number 2 to get to 3.
And then skip the next Karate Kid and never do the Jaden Smith version.
That's a deal. Number 3 is The Three Ninjas, the 1992 action comedy family movie about 3 brothers who go to visit their grandfather. What might we cover if we jump into some Three Ninja?
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and be bold and say, I've seen each Three Ninjas movie maybe one time.
Okay.
I know Tom Tom. I know Rocky loves Emily. Is that
no,
correct?
You got it. That's perfect. Then we got Colt.
And Colt and the other one.
Rocky, Colt, and Tum Tum.
I would be bold enough to say if that's the winner, we might have to call in a ringer and get a third person in on that chat. Justin Bronson, being the resident Three Ninjas expert that I know, might be a great addition to that episode.
Good. I like it. Yeah, that's actually a movie that I really liked growing up. I watched it 100 times.
See, in my experience, you're either a Three Ninjas person or a Surf Ninjas person, and I was both person. Oh, well, okay. Well, you also had Jordans, you piece of garbage.
And then the last one, number 4, and I believe this is the second time we've had him on a poll topic here. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the 1989 adventure comedy about a scientist father who accidentally shrinks his kids and the neighbor's kids and has to find them in the backyard. What might we cover if we get into the Rick Moranis 1989 film Honey, I Shrunk the Kids?
Oh, definitely a lot of Moranis. I mean, the Zelensky impressions that we're going to be doing. I mean, I think if I could implore you guys to vote for anything, please let us do our first Rick Moranis movie, and then we can leverage that into Big Giants, Little Giants. Damn it.
No, that sounds like a great idea. I'd love to do some Rick Moranis. Of course, at some point we're going to be covering him in Ghostbusters as Louis Tully, which I can't wait.
Agreed.
Awesome. So that's it. Go to the Twitter right now. We are at Back in Time Pod, and vote on our poll topic. Again, you can choose between Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Karate Kid, Three Ninjas, or Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. You guys vote. We review. It'll be a fun time. Check us out on social media. Twitter, Instagram is both at Back in Time Pod. I'm at Kautry67. JD's at Unjust Justin. We're also on Facebook, facebook.com/Back in Time Pod. Our website is backintimepod.wordpress.com. Or shoot us an email. Hit us old style with the Back in Time Podcast at gmail.com, and shoot us your memes on there or your thoughts or comments. We'll be back on Monday with the teaser trailer for Cool Runnings. But for now, we're going to hop back into the DeLorean, cruise back to present day, and we will talk to you guys next week.
Jackass!